Welcome to Recap King. In this video, we will explain The Gentleman. This movie tells the story of a talented American graduate of Oxford, using his unique skills and audacity, creates a marijuana empire using the estates of impoverished British aristocrats. However, when he tries to sell his empire to a fellow American billionaire, a chain of events unfolds, involving blackmail, deception, mayhem, and murder between street thugs. Can he finally able to sell his marijuana empire and attain peace? Let's find out in The Gentleman. The Gentleman tells the story of a man named Mickey Pearson, who is the most respected cannabis baron in the criminal world. In his youth, Pearson managed to get a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford University, but he did not pursue his education and decided to drop out of college. Born into poverty, Pearson's ambition was to achieve success and amass wealth, and become a man of power. Therefore, Pearson decided to sell marijuana to the wealthy college students and gangsters. Not only that, Pearson also did not hesitate to use violence to anyone who dared to interfere with him or his business. After years of building a lucrative marijuana empire and becoming the most powerful and influential person in the criminal underbelly, Pearson plans to sell his business to the highest bidder so he can retire in peace with his wife, Rosalind. Hearing the plan, an American billionaire named Matthew Berger seemed interested in buying Pearson's marijuana business for £400 million. To show how majestic and profitable his marijuana business is, Pearson takes him to one of the labs, where he grows marijuana in the basement of an aristocratic landlord who needs cash to maintain their stately home. Matthew was so impressed with Pearson's cannabis lab. It was grown and managed so well that it produced quality marijuana that skyrocketed in price on the market. Matthew also asked Pearson why he wanted to sell the very profitable business. Pearson replied that sooner or later, his marijuana business would be discovered by the police. With a series of criminal records that he had in the past, Pearson thought that his business would be destroyed in an instant if caught by the police, so Pearson decided to sell it and retire peacefully. Matthew, who seemed to understand Pearson's explanation, then asked him to show the place where Pearson processed marijuana until it was ready to be marketed and distributed. The scene then switches and shows an editor of the daily print tabloid nicknamed Big Dave, looking so annoyed that he has felt humiliated by Pearson at a party, where Pearson at that time refused to shake Dave's hand because Pearson knew that Dave had ambitions to expose his disgrace and had published several articles that tarnish his reputation. Annoyed at being humiliated by Pearson, Dave then hires a private investigator, a man named Fletcher, to investigate Pearson's relationship with Lord Charles Pressfield, as well as spy on the movements of Pearson and his henchmen. Fletcher agreed to this, but proposed a fairly high price for his services. Meanwhile, in another place, a man nicknamed Dry Eye seems to be checking container documents with his men. Dry Eye is the right-hand man of one of the most respected crime lord bosses in China named Lord George, where Dry Eye is in charge of smuggling goods for Lord George. Not only inanimate objects, Dry Eye also smuggles people and runs a human trafficking business. One of his men then told Dry Eye about Pearson's plan to sell his marijuana business. Hearing this, Dry Eye seemed interested and intends to buy it, even though Pearson plans to double the selling price. Turning back to Pearson, he has a beautiful wife named Rosalind, who has a fairly successful car repair business and is widely known to foreign countries. Rosalind then reminded her husband to always be vigilant and careful, and not act rashly if he retires later because his business empire will surely be very vulnerable and contested by many people. Pearson, who loves his wife so much, of course he will listen to his wife's words. Not long after, Dry Eye came to Rosalind at her workshop. Shortly after Pearson left, Rosalind had just realized that some of the auto parts she bought for her workshop were contraband from Dry Eye. Dry Eye then asked Rosalind to meet him with Pearson, but Rosalind could not promise that. Dry Eye then went to Pearson and made his offer to buy Pearson's marijuana business. Seeing Pearson, who seemed uncomfortable with Dry Eye nearby, Raymond, Pearson's right-hand man, then asked Dry Eye to leave immediately because Pearson had refused his offer. On the other hand, Pearson had already imagined how he would kill Dry Eye if the man didn't get out of his sight soon. However, Pearson, who had changed a lot now, was no longer acting as reckless and brutal as he was in the past over trivial matters. After finally Pearson softened a bit and said that he would consider the offer, Dry Eye walked away. That night, a group of masked youths break into Pearson's marijuana lab, where they managed to defeat the guards and steal a van load of marijuana and upload a rap video of their caper online. One of the guards immediately reported the incident to Pearson and told Pearson that the youths were highly trained in martial arts, so they were definitely not ordinary youths and that someone had ordered them to. The group of youths who attacked Pearson's lab turned out to be a group of amateur MMA fighters and YouTubers nicknamed the Toddlers, where they were students of the coach, a former professional fighter who always taught to fight using the brain, not just relying on the physical. Knowing that his students had misbehaved by breaking in and stealing marijuana from Pearson's lab, Coach ordered them to delete the video they had uploaded to YouTube, and was horrified to learn that the marijuana belonged to Mickey Pearson.
Take it down. Now!
After the raid on his lab, Pearson begins removing cannabis plants from the plantation as a safety precaution, while Raymond investigates how the group of young men found out the location of their marijuana lab. Pearson then goes to Lord Snowball and asks for his help in secretly moving the cannabis plant to a safer place. Lord Snowball agreed, but he asked Pearson to do something for him. As it turned out, Lord Snowball asked Pearson to help Lord Pressfield to locate Laura, his daughter who is a heroin addict, who disappeared recently. Pearson then orders Raymond to find Laura's whereabouts. Raymond eventually finds Laura hiding in an apartment, where she lives with several other addicts. However, in a fight with his flatmates, one of Raymond's men accidentally pushes Aslan, a young Russian man, off the balcony to his death. The incident turned out to be recorded by a group of young men who happened to be outside an apartment building, where it could be used as evidence that would potentially cause trouble for Pearson. Therefore, Raymond and his henchmen then chased the young men to take their cell phones. Initially, Raymond offered to buy their cell phone with a fairly expensive fee, but because they refused and involved a local gang, Raymond was forced to use violence and managed to get the cell phone.
Right.
After returning Laura to her parents, Raymond then reports to Pearson about an accidental incident, which killed Aslan, who turned out to be the son of a billionaire from Russia. On the other hand, although Laura is then returned to her parents, she later dies of a heroin overdose. Coach is seen visiting Raymond to apologize for the actions of his students and offers his services as a fighter to make amends for the Toddlers. As the first task, Raymond also asked Coach to find out who had told the location of Pearson's lab to his students and arrested him. Coach agreed, and it didn't take long for Coach to find the person, who turned out to be Fook, one of Dry Eye's henchmen. As Raymond is about to interrogate the man, Fook is fatally hit by a train in a failed escape attempt. Raymond immediately reported the matter to Pearson, where Pearson then assumed that Lord George intended to lower the selling price of his business. Pearson then goes to Lord George and threatens him for pursuing his lab, and destroys one of Lord George's heroin labs in retaliation. Lord George then punishes Dry Eye for his defiance of attacking Pearson and offers to buy his business, which would be considered demeaning as Pearson and Lord George have similar but not identical businesses. Lord George then nodded to one of his henchmen to execute Dry Eye, but he executed Lord George instead. After Lord George's death, Dry Eye became the new crime lord. After Lord George's death, Dry Eye, who is now the leader of the gang, still hopes to take Pearson's business empire for himself. On the other hand, when Pearson was sitting alone in a cafe calling his wife, suddenly a man appeared from behind and was about to kill Pearson. But Raymond came just in time and killed the man right away. Knowing that he had been the target of murder, Pearson rushed to his wife's place because he was worried about her. Meanwhile, at Rosalind's place, Dry Eye has arrived and intends to kidnap Rosalind, but she manages to kill Dry Eye's men before she runs out of bullets in her two-shot Derringer. Dry Eye immediately paralyzed Rosalind and smothered her hand, before finally Pearson came and fatally shot Dry Eye when the man was about to rape his wife, killing him. Fletcher then meets Raymond, and reveals that he has been following Pearson and obtained important information that could plunge Pearson and his business empire on orders from Big Dave. Fletcher also informs Raymond that Dry Eye has allied himself with Berger, who wants Pearson's business empire to be disrupted to lower its selling price, which Berger thinks is too high. Fletcher went to Raymond, hoping to get paid more for the information than Big Dave had offered. After knowing all this information, Raymond then ordered the Toddlers to catch Big Dave. They then drugged the man and filmed him copulating with an animal, and threatened to post it online unless Big Dave stopped his investigation and made nothing public about Pearson and his men. After that, Pearson and Berger met again at a frozen fish factory, which is just a cover for Pearson's cannabis plant distribution operations in Europe. Berger tells Pearson to lower the selling price of his business to £130 million due to the recent conflict, but Pearson reveals his knowledge of Berger's plans and shows Dry Eye's frozen corpse and confirms to Berger that he is defending his business empire. Pearson then forced Berger into the refrigerator, where he would freeze to death unless Berger transferred £270 million in compensation for the blood he now has on his hands and the cost of restoring orders. Pearson admits he is not emotional about the money, but because Rosalind was almost raped, Pearson demands a pound of flesh from Berger's own body, anywhere Berger chooses, as compensation for this indiscretion. On the other hand, Fletcher then visits Raymond again for his information payment, but Raymond reveals that he had been tailing Fletcher all along after Raymond placed a tracker on him during their last meeting. Raymond then orders the toddlers to steal the stash of evidence from Fletcher's information, so that any information in Fletcher's possession, which could lead to Pearson, will no longer be a threat. But later, Fletcher revealed that he had also sold information about Pearson to Aslan's father, who turned out to be a former KGB agent. Fletcher reveals that the hitman Raymond killed when he was about to kill Pearson was on Aslan's father's order. While outside Raymond's house, Coach sees 2 Russian hitmen sent to kill Raymond, and kills them immediately, while Fletcher manages to escape. Elsewhere, Pearson is kidnapped by 2 other Russian hitmen, but they are ambushed by the toddlers, who want to get their job done and solve their coach problem. They bombarded the assassin's car with bullets, killing the Russian hitmen and allowing Pearson to escape. Some days later, Fletcher decided to bring the story of Pearson as a film to Miramax. After his meeting with the film's producers, Fletcher takes a taxi only to realize that Raymond is the driver. Upon learning of Fletcher's arrest, Pearson and Rosalind return to their cannabis empire and celebrate in their respective companies. The film ends. The moral of this film is never to be involved in illegal business, because sooner or later, we will surely fall into misery. Through this film, we are also shown about loyalty, betrayal, responsibility, and also the consequences that we will get if we relate to the criminal world.